Hello, this is Gene. It's been a crazy day already. I was hoping to pick up my car today because they had a little fender bender, but apparently they found a sensor that was destroyed. So I have to wait another day to get it done. And also I've been waiting for my biopsy results on my last biopsy that I had in my bladder. Those of you who followed my channel, you know that I've had cancer, or I had bladder cancer about 2 years ago. And it seems like every time I go to him, he takes out something out of my bladder to look at. Tells me it's probably just inflammation, but he has to look at it. So I was hoping that they would have their results today. They're not going to have it today, and apparently I'm not going to have my car back today. It is what it is, you know. You just move on with life. So yesterday I did a video, and I got a couple people that responded to my video, and they said they're going to push me over to the movement, the movement. I don't know what movement he was talking about. He was talking about the alt-right or America First. You know, under Nick Fuentes, which I guess I'm more of that way than I am the alt-right. I'm more of a paleo-conservative than I am a alt-righter. But I'm also kind of a white identitarian as well, to a point. I think we have the ability, and we should be able to talk about issues that affect us as other races do this, other cultures do this. So please excuse the cars going by. Today seems to be a very good day. It's really nice here. It's about 50 degrees. Florida don't get this cool during this time. So when that happens, I like to take my stuff outside and talk about this. So last night, Nick Fuentes talked about the Muslim congressman, Oman, I think her name was, and that she's going to basically be chastised on the House floor today or tomorrow. The Democrats came out with a 4-page document, a resolution that said that basically to tell us what anti-Semitism is, because apparently we don't know what that is. And of course they have to go down each one and tell everybody what is actually anti-Semitic. And I'm going to try to go through this. He did it on his show, and I'll put it down below so you guys can watch it. Those of you who don't know who he is, please watch him. The guy is the future of whatever the movement is. This is the type of people we need to do if we're going to actually save the West, the United States especially. So this is what it is. She just said a few things that maybe people like me have said about Israel's influence in our country, Jewish people in particular. And she said stuff that most people have said. And a lot of people want to call that anti-Semitic. People like Ben Shapiro said it's anti-Semitic. And you see a lot of people that are saying this is good, this resolution, and saying that you can't really talk like this about Jewish people or the state of Israel. And people who know or don't know is that in Texas recently, a Muslim woman applied for a job, a state job, and she had to sign something saying that she would not support any boycott of Israel. And I think it's dealing with the Palestinian stuff. And then she said, I'm not going to do that because I support Palestine. And she should have that right. She lives in the United States. She's a citizen of this country. Just happens to worship a different God than I might do. Again, I don't really have any problem with Muslims or a moderate. I don't really care. They can have their beliefs. As a person, as a Christian who has my beliefs, and as a Jewish person who has their beliefs. That's the greatness of this country. You should have that. So this woman didn't really say, this congressman didn't really say anything any different than I've said. But this is the beginning of them trying to stifle debate when it comes to Israel. And you'll see going through this, and again, Nick talked about this, and he does it a lot better than me. You know, people who come to this channel who don't know me, I had a stroke 8 years ago. It's kind of hard for me to read and say what I'm going to say, and some of the words that I say doesn't come out exactly the same way. And in some words I can't even say. I just can't do it. And I wish I could be as articulate as Nick was. In my 20s, I kind of was that way. I mean, he's way up there. I mean, he's at the top. He's an elite. But I definitely, I could have stayed with him back then. But anyway, he wasn't alive, though. So this resolution says, we're going to reject anti-Semitism as hateful expression of intolerance that are contradictory to the values that define the people of the United States. So it's interesting that this resolution is going to tell me what I should feel about the influence or Jewish people, that any type of decision I might have might be deemed anti-Semitic. And we know in Europe that it's a crime to say certain things that they're going to bring up in this and what the stuff I've said on my channel. So this is something that they're trying to get in this country as well. And again, I've said it many times on this channel, when the United States loses its free speech, that the West is gone. Now, a lot of people, all the people who are black-pilled, they already believe that, right? They already believe that the West is gone and the United States is gone. I have to be optimistic at some point because I have kids, right? And I have two boys that have to deal with this stuff. And I just can't put my head in the sand. I have to talk about it and hopefully wake more and more people up. People like Nick are doing this as well. You know, obviously one person sees me, it might inspire them to do something to wake up more people. I mean, there are guys like Nick around there. I mean, obviously he's an elite type of dude. I mean, the way he can talk and stuff, but there are people like him, and we got to try to foster that. So let me try to go through this as best as I can. Again, apologies because it's kind of hard for me to read. It just is. I can read it, but it's hard for me to say it, and it'll sound stupid, and then I'll give you my thoughts after each thing we talk about. Now, it talks about anti-Semitic behavior as being bigoted to Jewish people because they're Jewish, and I'll agree with that to a point. But at the bottom of the resolution, it says that they decide what anti-Semitism is based on. This the working definition is based on promulgated by the International Holocaust Remembrance Allegiance. So there are a lot of people who watched my channels, not many, but had read that I don't buy the narrative of the Holocaust. And for me to say that because they are talking about the Holocaust, that they are the arbiter when it talks about what is anti-Semitic, I have an issue with that. But I don't buy the story of the Holocaust. So I'm just gonna let you say that. You can say I'm biased when it comes to that. It wouldn't really cared if it was not Jewish people that were quote unquote being gassed and then burned. It could be anybody else, and if I looked at the evidence, I would say there's something kind of off here about this. And of course, the impact that it's had in Europe and the United States since then, and they actually kind of like talk about that here. So, definitely includes a certain perception of Jews, which may be expressed by his hatred of Jews, blaming Jews when things go wrong, calling for aid, and justifying the killing or harming of Jews in the name of radical ideology or extremist views of religion, or making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations of Jews. Now, we all know about stereotypical stuff, right? Usually, there's a reason why you have a stereotype. There's probably something that is relevant to a culture or race. Men could be looked at as more stoic and less emotional than women. That's kind of stereotypical behavior of men. Of course, there are men that are outside of that are more emotional, and there are women that are very hard and fast that you would never see them sweat, as they might say. But stereotypically, men have less emotion when it comes to certain things than women do. That's a stereotype. So they're gonna actually talk about this, about the stereotypes that we have with Jewish people, and they want to call this all myths, that it's not real. And then when you bring it up, it's called anti-Semitic. Now the question is, what is actually Semitic? Jewish are not the only people that are Semitic. Arabs are as well, and in fact, they're almost related. They're people from the same area, and it's funny that nobody really cares when we say something like this about other areas. It's not codified in law that you can't say bad things about them. Said the numerous other dangerous anti-Semitic myths as well, including that Jews control the banks. Clearly they do. This is not really a myth. It's absolutely fact, and Jewish people will say it. They will tell you in the face that they run these things. They run the Fed. They run the financial districts. People will say, on their side, they're smarter and more successful than the goy is, the white people are, and they get their through out of their, their great IQ and their acumen to do this type of thing. It's like when you say that they have a higher verbal IQ. I guess that's anti-Semitic as well, because later on they're going to say that they're good with money or they are all about money. Well, when you have the ability that you're really good at verbal and you can talk, you can be a salesman, you might have more money. It kind of like goes hand in hand. Again, it goes down, yeah, that they control the banks, they do, the media, they do, in the United States and the United States government, they don't control the United States government, but they have a huge amount of influence, a lot more than they should. And then we have to question what they do with that influence, and we go into what that actually is, and that's another thing they consider anti-Semitic, and that Jews are obsessed with money. Well, I just made the little parable that says that that they are, and I think they're 30 times more likely to be a billionaire or a millionaire in this country than other ethnic groups. So whether they're obsessed with money, they clearly are awashed in money. Another myth that they say is that a lot of Jewish people in this country have loyalty to Israel over the United States. This is a fact. Not all, of course, and nobody on this channel is going to say all, but they do. And if you go to Jewish synagogues, and I've had people in my family been there, they talk about Israel well before they talk about anything that's going around local. And if they even talk about local shit, they give all their money to fucking Israel. And the question is why? These people are born here, and they still look at Israel as their homeland. You know what? I have no issue with that. But when it comes in this country, in this channel, this is America first, and they need to stop trying to get influence over what our foreign policy is. Being loyal to Israel and alleged priorities of Jews worldwide in the interest of their own nations. This is something that's pretty clear and irrelevant. They talk about in all their lobbyist conferences. They talk about this all the time. They're talking about you have the homeland, which is Israel, and they want to do things about where all the other Jews are somewhat being persecuted. And this little thing will continue on about things that happened 60, 70, 80 years ago, 100 years ago. And I could just look at all the different things that were going in the 1920s, saying that all these 6 million Jews were being persecuted around the world. That 6 million figure came out well before what happened in the camps. This is something that apparently, if you look at numerology, that the Jews like this number. It's always at 6 million. Even after we know, and again, we're going to go off about the Holocaust just a bit, we know that they've gone back and they changed all the totals of dead, especially at Auschwitz, from 4.5 million to 1.1 million. So clearly it's not 6 million, but that term will never leave. Even today, people continually say 6 million Jews died there. The Red Cross at about 280. Just saying. I'm not saying that what Hitler did was right. I'm not saying it, but come on now. Whereas accusing Jews of being, this is three paragraphs of this saying that Jews would do loyalty. This is something that happens because this affects a lot of people in Congress that are Jewish and have dual citizenships. So not only this, because she kind of called that out, this Muslim congressman, so they had to talk about it like four paragraphs, and then they go about everything else that was considered bigotry now. It's like that Jews cannot be patriotic Americans and trusted neighbors when Jews have served our nation since its founding, whether in public life or military service. Again, it's like saying, okay, so the KKK, so is people in the white nations or white nationalists or Aryan nations or Black Panther or La Raza or Hamas. All these people have served in our nation's forces. I don't know what that really means. Is it just saying that, yeah, Jewish people have done certain things as patriots, and most, like I said, most Jewish people are that way. I mean, I don't have any issue with them, but there is a part of them that have so much influence in this country, and they want to stop from that debate being happening. because they know that we're being woken up. The internet has helped in a lot of ways, and people can find out how much influence they have in this country, in media, in the government, in Hollywood, in the banks. These are factual things, and they want to codify this to say that's anti-Semitic. And then eventually this is going to be something that's going to be, you're going to misdemeanor for doing shit like that. Or if you continually say it online or something like that, you're going to get cyberbullying or some bullshit, and you might go to jail for it. The idea that you don't think this is going to happen, it's already happening in Europe right now. So it says, they did these three long things talking about that, that Israel didn't have their nation until 48. So 70 years they've had it, but apparently they're still being persecuted because of it. And that this idea that they're not really loyal to the country that they're in, well, they have a history of it. 109 countries they've been kicked out of. And I don't really want to just compare this to like have an abortion, but a lot of people on the left or people that are pro-choice continually say this, that a fetus has a parasitic relationship with the mother. They're like a parasite until I guess the woman decides that it's viable to have a baby or something. Well, a lot of people said that about the Jewish people as well. And Hitler said this, and again, that might be considered anti-Semitic. If he said because they're Jewish, they're parasites, I might have said that that's anti-Semitic and probably shouldn't say it, but he really should have he should have the ability to say it in the world. But anyway. So it goes on and says, well, let me talk about these other things that happen, because this dual loyalty generally have an assiduous, bigoted history, including the discriminatory internment of Americans of Japanese descent during World War II on the basis of race. Okay, that was a Democrat that did that, and I don't have any issue with him doing that. But the issue I have is the end of the day, when a lot of these people didn't get their money back or their property back, that should never happen. But we didn't know where their allegiance to, and apparently, looking back 70 years later, we're going to say it was a bigoted thing to do, to intern the Japanese. Now, did we apologize to them? We probably did, this is what we do. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And that's why when people talk about Hitler, I mean, he did the same thing with the Jews. He looked at them as enemies of the state. And not just the Jews, other people that were not really part of the Volk. Again, I probably wouldn't support that. But again, it depends. If they're on the ground, you just do not know. And the fact is, back in 1940, this country was 95% white. So everybody's going to look a little different. They're going to look at people as the enemy, and then you put them off, and we didn't go in and kill them, but we did what we thought we had to do. Maybe it was wrong at the time, and you can always go back 2020 and say that it was a wrong thing to do, but I'm not, he did what he had to do. And people want, again, this was another Democrat person that did this. I don't want to talk, the Dreyfus affair, they're saying that, look it up. It's just a one little thing that happened in the world that said that it was a Jewish person doing things with, I don't know. And then when the loyalty of President John F. Kennedy was questioned because of his Catholic faith, he wasn't president at the time, but when he ran in 60, it did come up because people questioned, well, would he listen to the Pope over the people? And I think this is a fair thing. And again, in that time, we were like 91% white in this country. And we were going through a little change in the 60s. Even though we were a really Christian nation, there were people starting to come out of that a little bit, get more secular. And they questioned the fact that if the Pope said something, we follow it. And, I think that's a fair thing. I don't think that's bigoted in any way. And he still won. Now, it's a question that he actually won because there are people that voted that were not alive, but that's a different thing. And then, of course, we have to, more recently, we have to talk about after 9/11 how huge amount of hate crimes had happened to Muslim people, which didn't really happen. There was never a schism of hate crime against Muslim people at that time. And they talk about it later about in the United States at 35% or 37 tick of anti-Semitic crime or people things against hate crimes against Jews. And then if you look at that, that's all bullshit. And there was the shooting, which they definitely can look at that. Somebody with a synagogue and killed some people, but shit like happens to schools. It goes in gay bars and something like that. So I'm going to continue on. They also brought up what Henry Ford talked about in over 100 years ago, saying that Jews plan to control the world not by territorial annexation, not by military aggression, not by governable subjugation, but the control of the machinery of commerce and exchange. And then you see this, the America First Committee and the rise of neo-Nazism. So this is all happens about with Trump. This is a little push at Trump here, even though Trump is probably the most Jewish-friendly president ever. It's, because America First, apparently that's a neo-Nazi thing now. And Nick Fuentes is also America First, so I guess he's a Nazi because he thinks that it's okay to save people that look like him in his country. So, yeah, there it goes. In 2017, the FBI reported a 37% increase in hate crimes against Jews and a Jewish institution. And then it made up 58% of all religious-based hate crimes. So apparently the Muslims are not really getting hit here. A lot of this is accusations, and almost all of them have been turned out to be hoaxes. These statistics are not, they don't bring that into fruition. So we don't know what happens after this crime happened when they've gone through the investigation, if it turned out to be an actual hate crime or a Jewish person who said something happened to him, kind of like Millett and Jesse Millett. But this has happened many times where they do a swastika, and there's videos of them doing it. It's just, but they could put it in there because it was reported. There is no systematic hate crime going against Jewish people. Again, somebody went into a synagogue in Pittsburgh and killed people. Obviously, that's horrible, but it is not indicative of the United States, and it never will be, because there are way, way, way too many people with their head in the sand that love Jews and Israel because they think that they're our friends. And continue on that Jews are the targets of anti-Semitic violence at even higher rates in any other countries that they are in the United States. Whatever. So that's basically it. And I get Nick looked at this, and I would obviously recommend that you go talk to him or watch him. He talks more eloquently than me on this. But in my closing, I just want to say this. It's about time the Jewish people just to stop acting like they're the victims all the time. I mean, they get upset because they're not at the top of the victim tree anymore. When something happens, then they get upset that they're not at the top of that. But they still are. Even though they have all the power and influence in this country, they're also are the most oppressed entity in the world in their mind. And their books say that they've been oppressed and persecuted, and they believe this stuff, whatever. And I don't have any problem with them defending Israel, but if you believe that way, you should go to Israel and just defend it. We need to stop giving them money, and people need to get more and more woken up about this, and we need to stop. If anybody tries to somehow codify these things in the law that says that if you say these things, that Jews are good with money, or they have too much control or too much influence in our government, and we sit here and allow this to happen, and they censor us from just saying the basic facts, then it really is on us. And I've tried to say this many, many times. We can call the Jew out every time. We can call Israel out all the time. But it's still up to us. We're still the majority in this country. And we can make, and I say just white people. There are black people that have problems with Jewish people or Israel. And so are there Hispanic as well. We, as a people, we need to get together. A country need to get together and just wrap down their influence in this country in a right way. I'm not saying to go and intern them and then put them in the ovens. That's not what I'm talking about. But anyway, let me know what you think below, and we'll talk about it in the comments. And again, thank you for those who've recently subscribed to my channel, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.